Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Daily Wolves episode. And it's a full house here in the Daily Wolves team, meaning that, of course, I am Will, and I'm joined by Chris. Chris, hello.
Hello, happy Tuesday.
See, I went to you first specifically to give you the chance to say that. And
Thanks.
we're also joined by Nathan. Nathan, how are we?
Hello, everyone. It's not a happy Tuesday.
No, it's not. It's not. So if anyone, if you listened yesterday, Nathan and I went on a bit of a rant, a bit of a ramble. We got slightly carried away after our result against Brentford. And I think, today's our chance to get Chris's thoughts on that. But before we do, I'd just like to give everyone a quick reminder that, of course, this weekend there is no fixture to build up to, due to it being the international break. And so you'll be hearing a little bit less from us this week, which I think, in a way is probably for the best, given our emotions at this moment in time. But yeah, so Chris.
Hi.
You've had a bit more time to sort of cool down since Saturday. Just straight off the bat, what are your sort of biggest takeaways from our defeat away to Brentford?
Well, I said to you guys just before the recording that I almost wish there's a part of me wishes I had done this like right after on Saturday, because it would have been a very different version of me. However, that might be safer that we are not doing it then for everyone's ears. I will say, I think the biggest thing I can say as a point of just to get, for anyone that's listened to previous episodes and to you guys to understand, where I am normally and where I am now, Mr. Optimism is gone. Mr. Optimism
has left the building.
Is usually my vibe, and he's currently left the building. Yeah, I was trying to think. I should have tried to I just can't. I was just in disbelief the whole time. It was absolutely shocking. I am truly worried at this point. I think more, beforehand I've been like, yeah, we'll be fine. We'll get through. It's going to be good. There's positive signs. There was no positive signs there other than maybe, we scored 3 goals away, which you guys referred to, which normally would gather points. 3 goals of any description away from home. We'd normally get, if not the win, at least a point, you would think, but nothing. And the second, I think the biggest quandary to me, outside of some of the things you've already mentioned in terms of, not marking at set pieces and just like the amount of times they just looked able to score at any moment, was the fact that the second half, whenever we had the ball, I felt like I could have gone to sleep. It just felt like there was we're losing the game and we're in this position where we desperately need points, and it just felt like there was no urgency. And again, just passing it round, it didn't feel like there was any threat. The second half just felt adrift. Does that? Did anyone else get that feeling?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We had 5 strikers on the pitch, five people whose job it is week in, week out to attempt to put a round floating thing in the back of the net, and 5 of them couldn't even create a clear-cut highlight that was even worth making it onto Match of the Day.
Yeah,
and that tells you the story that you need to know, really, doesn't it? If you got 5 strikers on the pitch, the one they included was like Cunha beating a player and then having like a penalty shout or something where he just kind of got shrugged and he fell over. Yeah. They just put that in, and it's nice of the BBC to do that because it makes us feel like we had an attacking threat somewhat, but we really didn't.
No, it's no surprise that those highlights that you're referring to, there was most of it was made up of the first half, and there was very little second half beyond the Brentford goal, because there was nothing. It was just dead. And if I'm one of those players on the bench, if I'm Sarabia or Gomez or whoever else, and your reaction and everyone's reaction to Hwang coming on and the things that are happening, I'm like, what do I have to do to get on that pitch? Because this same lineup, I know Forbes was maybe one shining light for the first 20 minutes or so before he seemed to kind of drift away a little bit, but he was involved in the one goal really well early on before it all started to fall apart. But where is like all these other guys? It's not working as it has been. So give them a chance. And now everyone's talking about the fact that surely go into the next game after international break, Manchester City, surely is going to be a format that has, like he's mentioned it, there has to be a formation change.
Yeah, it annoys me that it's taken him until now to admit and realise and act on that. It just goes to show how sort of unproactive he is as a manager. And yeah, I think the main thing for me, I mean, we speak about, our strikers. In the first half, both your strikers score 2 goals then away from home in the first half. And then we go on to, like you already mentioned, not even get a point from the game. But as I mentioned yesterday, not lose by tight margins, lose embarrassingly so, despite scoring 3 goals. It's so weird, but it goes to show you, like you just spoken about there, Chris, it's a very good point of the sort of second half when we were on the ball. It was painful to watch, and that lack of organisation and structure, that's the biggest worry for me. Is the sort of there's just no identity of a style of football, and you can't progress like that. We spoke about, as you just alluded to there, a back five. I mean, it's annoying, in my opinion, that it's an international break and then the City game, because that's given us a sort of free hit, which buys O'Neill a lot more time, but a lot more time to,
to do what?
A lot more time to a manager who's already had 7 games in a whole pre-season and can't get tune out of his best players, who we speak about being great players.
No, so, but I mean, the thing is, if they bring in a new manager before Man City and Brighton, they're they're not gonna. The likelihood is they're still gonna lose to those 2 teams, so they might as well wait and give them a better chance against the lower quotations lower opposition. But I was just underwhelmed. Like that second half, I think we were so resigned at that point to defeat, and the fact that every time we got the ball, there was nothing happening. I literally got to the point I was like, I'm just going to check my phone, because there was nothing. There was just nothing. And my last point before Nathan I can see Nathan really wants to speak, is that no, it won't be my last point of the show. We know that, but the biggest frustration for me as well around the Hwang Andre substitute was not even was the fact that of all the people in that midfield to pull off, Lamina had a shocking day. And they're both. I mean, I know maybe Andre is arguably more defensively minded, and you want to go attacking, but Lamina had a shocking day. He's had a few bad performances this season. They all have. But he gave away the penalty hideously, some terrible passes to give away the ball in the build-up to at least one of those goals as well. Like, just all around shocking day. I know he's the captain, but of all the people there in that midfield that you're going to leave him on the pitch when he's had that kind of performance. Take him off. Plus, it's early in the season. He always looks shattered. His knee is constantly bandaged. Like, what is going on? You've got whether you're going to bring Tommy Doyle on or anyone else or do something. He's not sacred. Get that guy off the pitch if he's having that kind of performance.
Free Tommy Doyle.
Nathan, just before you go ahead, I'm going to give Chris a moment to breathe in and breathe out by giving out a quick reminder that this podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day. But yeah, whilst Chris calls off, I think it's a good platform here at GSPN to just, relieve yourself of the frustrations of being a Wolves fan. Nathan, you were going to make a point a moment ago based off Chris's rants and rambles. Be honest, go ahead.
I'm just recycling bad thoughts about the game, and it's not good for your mental health, really, is it? But
no.
a thought that literally was coming into my head as Chris was speaking then is, well, it's actually a thought I've already voiced yesterday, but there was no like structure or plan, and it still baffles me. Like, this is the thing that I keep coming back to when I'm thinking about the game, is how can you have a free kick in the second half right after you've had a half time and you don't know where you're putting it or what your approach is? How can you have possession and not even I don't want to question the effort of the players, because I think they put in a decent shift, even though it was rubbish. They still look like they were giving it 100%. But you can't even see a run being made from midfield or trying to break a line, or
no, there's
or
no
are we going
patterns
out
of
wide?
play.
There's no. You watch it and it's just like, as Chris said, it's just dead. And you think, right, if something's dead, well, let's do something to make something happen, to bring on that player who's going to bring a ball, bring a pass, bring something different. And Hwang is not the bloke who's picking the ball up on the halfway line and bringing that link between what was a very wobbly defence and a non-existent attack in the second half. So Tommy Doyle and Sarabia could have been options in that situation when you're trying to create that something. And instead we got Hwang and Guedes, who both looked just as lost as one another.
Well, my biggest worry, Nathan, is something you alluded to a moment ago, and Chris, is something you mentioned, was how unfit all of the players look, and how, they look knackered after about an hour. And that's got to be down to the coaching staff. That has to be, so it's all well and good being likeable characters, and everyone thinks O'Neill's a nice bloke, but I don't understand how a Premier League squad can look so unfit and struggle to compete across a 90-minute game of football with every other opposition team that they come across. I just don't get it.
Well, he said when he came in last season they weren't fit enough. So what's did he not? I don't understand if it's improved or not, or what he did to try and improve that.
Well, he was doing the shuttle runs with them. Did you see that in pre-season? So that may be why. Maybe they're at his level of fitness, not the actual Premier League standard.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I have to say, I feel sorry for Hwang because of the booing in that situation. He's not, players do what they're told to an extent, and he's being told to come on and in place of Andre. He doesn't make that. He's just doing what he's told at that point. So I think it's fair to say I feel a little bit sorry for him. He doesn't choose that moment.
Yeah, and that leads me perfectly on to a quote from our captain Mario Lemina, who we've singled out in this episode already. For sort of lackluster performances. And Chris, you mentioned that his knee's been bandaged up and strapped up. I've not seen anything about that. No one said anything about it, and that's just a little thing that's been grinding my gears. So I'm glad you brought it up.
If I can on that, because he basically, it's been strapped up for numerous games, and there's been several games where there was one moment where I think earlier in the season he did take a knock on it, but he's often all of last season he's had knocks on the same leg. He often seems to be struggling or having to manage it. After a few rough tackles, he gets up and he's wincing when he's always holding that leg. And it's like, I know you want your best players on the pitch, well, arguably best players on the pitch, but if he's struggling, then why keep running him into the ground? He's going to put in bad performances if he's being run into the ground.
Yeah, but there's a quote from him here which has got a lot of fans up in arms and a lot of fans on him. And I'm just going to say this now. I'm a big Lemina fan. I think I felt almost let down by him, but I'm sure that he'll feel let down by himself as well. I do like him as a player, and I'll always thank him for what he did for our club when he came in a couple of Januaries ago in the season in which we just stayed up. But he has been poor lately, and he's taken to say this. He says, "Gary is not the problem." You know what I think of that. He's doing really well. No, he isn't. If you say Gary O'Neill is the problem, then you are liars and cheaters, because he has given us a lot of things that we didn't have before. He has given a chance to a lot of players, and now we have to give it back to him. And at the moment, we are not. The fans are disappointed with us. It's not about Hwang. I understand that. We have not won a game yet, so they need to find some targets. But there are no targets. We are a team. I just want to get your thoughts on that, guys, because I know my thoughts. Chris, what do you think about it?
I need to put forward a clarification because Liam, that comes from an interview with Liam Keane, and he's put out a tweet literally just this evening saying that he's being misquoted from the article on that. That
Yes.
The line from Lamina is not saying you are liars and cheaters, that we are liars and cheaters, as in him, the players, and the people, like the people in the team.
That was very much going to be my point, because I saw a lot of fans react negatively to that, sort of, how can our captain say this about us, blah blah blah. I'll be honest, when I first read it, I didn't need that clarification. I thought it was pretty crystal clear, and it was blown out of proportion. And I don't know, I understand that no player is going to come out and say, "Oh, the manager's useless." But we've seen Lamina's reactions to O'Neill and his tactical advice before, and I think there's potential unrest there. But yeah, to say he's not the problem and that he's doing really well, come on, guys! He's not. Yeah. It's not true. It's just not true.
Mario Lamina must have some experience as a sporting director, or a higher up than the manager. He obviously sees the potential in Gary O'Neill that the rest of us, including Bournemouth sporting directors, didn't see.
He made him captain.
Yeah, well, this is it. No player is going to come out and say, especially not the captain or one of the more experienced and, higher up in the leadership terms of things. None of those players are going to ever come out and say that the manager needs to be sacked. But I think when you've got...
Sorry, are we seeing a captain's curse? Can he not handle? Is he too emotionally trying too hard in the games and making mistakes because it's like, I'm the captain, it's all on me? And like Kilman couldn't really handle the captaincy last season. Just to throw a thought out there.
At least Kilman was just emotionless. So if anything, it didn't affect him that badly. But yeah, I do agree, and it's sad to see, because Lamina was who I wanted to be Wolves captain. He's someone who I'm a massive fan of, and I love the way he carries himself. But like you said, since he's taken up the armband and we've gone on this poor run of form, it does seem to be affecting him more than others.
Yeah, I think it's also a trait that's probably going across the team. This idea, this thing that they seem to be quite emotional this season, just in general, and emotional in their footballing decisions, not just emotional throwing your arms up at the ref. And the amount of times that Cunha blatantly fouls someone and then turns around at the ref as if he's just spoken. He loves it, and sometimes that's fine. Like everyone does it in the Prem, but it's the footballing decisions that are the most worrying. It's when they've let their emotions get the better of them, where they've just... I keep thinking back to when we've equalised against Liverpool, and 4 of them have got to go and chase and press from the off, something that we weren't doing 5 minutes earlier. Or Lamina in the game against Brentford, sort of, mistake playing out from the back, whatever, and then jumps to press, and then all of a sudden it's his space that's exploited. It's like it's decisions like that. It's fine having some emotion when it's aiding you positively, using that kind of captain's armband to be a leader and help your teammates and whatever. But it looks as though it's just weighing in negatively, and it seems as though it's not just Lamina. And they're all kind of getting a bit wound up, which is understandable. I mean, it must, like, the pressure's heavy, right?
Well, this is it. This is
part of being a Premier League player, and it's something that Gary O'Neill needs to make them aware of, is like every half-time team talk is going to be emotional, right? Like, whether you're leading or not, the pressures are huge.
Well, sorry, you say every half-time team talk is going to be emotional. Evidently not. I mean,
But do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. The pressure's massive. Like, it's hard for, like, we're always going to be fans watching the game. It's hard to imagine what that must be like. But at the same time, that is your job. Like, this isn't something, these players are all experienced players. There aren't many in that squad that haven't got Premier League experience. So, yeah.
Well, I was just thinking ahead because, like with the future is so ominous, and thinking about if he changes to something like a back five or back three, whatever version of that we see against Manchester City. This whole thing of wanting his best players on the pitch and like running the likes of Lamina into the ground. Oh my gosh, if I see him put Lamina somewhere like left wing because he just has to have him on the pitch and he can't fit all three midfielders in the middle. Oh my gosh, I'm just going to have a meltdown.
It would be the most O'Neill thing I've ever seen in my life. It'd be him and Doherty will be left wing back, he would be left wing, Lamina up front.
Huang as a false nine or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that actually.
And sorry to throw that in there. I just had this vision of, trying to shoehorn the players that he really wants into that starting 11 because it's pretty much been the same for every game, bar one or two. It's just shoehorn them into the spots, regardless of whether it's the spot they should be in.
Yeah, we'll have Matt Doherty in goal next. He's played there before for us.
Yeah.
Well, at least we'll be able to play out from the back.
Oh,
I think
liquid football out from the back with Doherty.
Can't do much worse than Johnston, surely. I mean, gosh. Yeah, that headed goal. Sorry, because I didn't give all my feedback from the weekend as well because I wasn't here on the previous episode. It's not even the fact that he's completely unmarked and Strand Larsen gets there late, but then it's got through. He's so far out. It's gone through so many people,
sort of floats,
and it just floats through everyone. In Johnston's nowhere. What is? I just don't. It was like slow motion. Did it feel like that to anyone else?
Chris.
No. It was like slow motion. You just watched it float endlessly through eternity, as if like time stopped moving, and everyone just stood there and watched it.
Look, Chris, breathe in, and whilst you breathe out, I just want to ask you: do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled reaching new audiences who engage with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at the Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it super easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. And now, Chris, I do want to mention that it's not that I disagreed with you at all. I could see you getting vexed like Nathan and I were yesterday on our episode. I just want to keep a little bit of structure, if possible, unlike us on the pitch.
Well, all I know is that, my voice started to go up octave by octave during that. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's understandably so. So I'll shift the attention onto some, quotation marks, good news, which is the fact that reported earlier today, we have parted ways with our set piece coach, Jack Wilson. I think he's been here a month or so, if that. I don't know. But the decision came jointly between Gary O'Neill and the club's hierarchy. The move just hasn't worked out. There's no plans to replace him in the short term. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the guy's done. Is he an intern?
No. I mean, I don't know if you're joking or being serious, but no.
No, I know he had some experience at Brentford, didn't he? And then Man City or whatever. Meant to be this genius set piece specialist, which, I mean, either he's not speaking the same language as the players, or he is, and he's saying, "See that big 6'6" centre half they've got? Yeah, don't worry too much about him.
Leave him alone." I just wanted to, whilst we're on the topic, I'm going to, again, you might need to rein me in here, Chris. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent about the whole notion of set-piece coaches. I just think it's the most woke thing in football, full stop. What a load of rubbish. And someone gets paid. Look, I've just started a new job. I get up early. I cycle in, whether it's, snowing, raining, whatever. I get there, I work hard, I come home, right? This bloke's being paid goodness knows how much money, Like, a lot more than I'm on, a lot more than a lot of Wolves fans will be on, to sit on his arse and watch videos of Brentford's corners for a living and decide how to counter those, and then come up with a few fancy set piece tactics of our own. Why isn't the manager doing that? That's such a basic thing. It's not that hard. I don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you saw our neighbours down the road. I don't know if you saw Aston Villa, their set piece coach. Now I live in Birmingham, so I've got quite a few Villa connections, and they're always on about their set piece coach. Long-haired Scottish fellow. He does my fruiting. Like Austin McPhee, his name is. He sounds like something from a cartoon. And he gets up on the sideline whenever the ball goes out for bleeding throwing, on the halfway line, let alone a sort of corner. He gets up and is sort of, he's like a composer at an orchestra, as if he's the manager, as if like he's in the spotlight, and he loves it. He loves it. They all love it. And it really, really winds me up, because I just don't get the need for that to, they're being paid a good amount, and they're producing sod all. And it really, really grinds my gears.
At least the Villa guy looks like he's trying to be involved. I don't recall ever seeing this guy, our guy, so animated. But yeah, one of the signings of the summer, he was.
Yeah, he's got weekends off, our guy has. He doesn't work weekends.
It's funny you should say that. So apparently he struggled to settle in with the backroom staff. I like to think, I'm going to give him credit, I like to think that's because he called them out on their, lack of coaching ability. But then again, pot kettle black if that was the case. And he was demoted from sitting on the bench during match days in recent weeks.
Wow.
Which, yeah, it's
That's
very much sort of,
fine, I'll go and sit in the executive box then.
Yeah,
drama.
Still getting paid, mind you. I just find it mental. I find it absolutely mental.
See, I genuinely, sorry, Will, I genuinely think that some of the set piece stuff, like the way the game's going, and I think I saw some stats as like, is it 20% of goals in the Prem come from set pieces or leading straight from a set piece. So I understand where clubs want to try and make some marginal gains. Like, I get that. It's just the way Wolves have done it. Like, that is so blatantly basic. Those mistakes that have happened, consistently are so basic that it's like, as you said, what is he doing? What is he doing? And what are the coaching staff doing as a whole?
You mentioned there that clubs will want to get those marginal gains, which I understand. I mean, we've been giving clubs far more than marginal gains from our set pieces. But I think those marginal gains could be bought by just a manager, just a coach doing their job, as opposed to this whole fancy set piece coach. It just winds me up in terms of, that's 150 grand a year off the wage bill for us for sod all, isn't it? But another thing that I think a few people have picked up on is that's a sort of easy scapegoat for Fosun, because fans have complained about this guy's set pieces. They've got rid of him as if to be seen to be ticking a box and being proactive and on the side of the fans almost, and listening and responding to fans' complaints, which is just absolutely ridiculous, because it's hardly a tough call or tough decision to make, is it? It was it's there for everyone to see.
But I did think that when I saw the news today, and the fact that obviously we already heard that Gary Neal's got the backing for a bit longer, and they're going to stick by him and all this kind of thing, and then we see the set piece coach leaves the day later. It's like, oh well, there's your scapegoat. So even if fair enough, this stuff was going on beforehand.
It's like for schools getting a bad Ofsted report and they sack the caretaker as opposed to the head teacher. It's nowhere near the same sort of decisional. It doesn't. I don't think the fans are sort of easy enough to pull the wool over their eyes in that respect, or at least I'd like to think not, because I don't know about you, but obviously it's good news that he's gone, I suppose. But are you satisfied now with the club? Of course not. So yeah.
I will be interested to see if the set pieces, particularly defense, change or improve in any way, because it can't be any worse, surely.
Well, yeah, I think they'll improve if you just mark your man. I think
wise words.
But that's what's painful about it as well, is because that's how basic. Nathan, you went on about it just then. That's how basic the decisions and changes need to be to see us improve, and they're just not happening. But Chris, just as we finish up, I'm going to throw a big question in your direction. Because I've not actually heard your thoughts on it, which I thought we would have. Obviously, we're not happy with the current state of the club and the season. So just quickly, one word: O'Neill, in or out?
You had to say one word, didn't you?
Okay, one word, and then you can elaborate a little bit.
I don't know. I'm just going to have a meltdown. I think I will say in for City and Brighton.
Yes.
Because like I said earlier, I don't think it would be almost fair to bring a new manager in right before Man City, because it's just like and plus it gives him these 2 weeks of the international break to work out what on earth he's going to do and have any hope of salvaging thing and reaching whatever it's going to be. And I just think, for me to say that, as I say, for Mr. Optimism here to be on this end of the spectrum, I'm very, very I'm way, way closer than I was before. I've completely shifted just because that was such, on top of everything we'd already seen, that was such an abysmal display.
Chris, I feel like I've been wearing you down over the course of the season. I now, I don't feel so lonely here in pessimistic land. But you just can't defend it up at this point. But thank you everybody for listening. That concludes us for today's episode. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be putting episodes out a bit less this week with the international break coming up. But Nathan and Chris, thank you both.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening. Have a lovely week.
Sorry, Nate. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Are you done there, Chris?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm just babbling now. Go on. I can't think.
But no, enjoy the break. I know we're going to, and you'll hear again from us soon.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.